All right, well, I'm here with the visionary Joel Haugen of Acres of Asher Acres of Asher Farm.
All works.
I'm here with Joel Haugen, Acres of Asher Farm, and we're super excited. We've been talking about doing an interview for a while, just about your farming experience, your background, and then jumping into really where you are today and kind of where you're headed. And the word that has been really, I think, maybe pun not intended, but now intended, circularly, is the word circle. And so circular farming, circular community, these are words that have been coming out of your mouth a lot lately. Tell us what, first of all, got you into farming?
I originally went to school for architecture, and I love the idea of building and creating. So that's why I was drawn into that field. But it wasn't for me. It wasn't my calling. I was always drawn to the farm. I just didn't think it would go and be successful as a conventional farm at that time. I didn't know of other ways to farm. And so I decided to try. Had enough acres to start, had an opportunity to get some more acres, rent some more land. And so I started farming. And as I started my farming career, something was kind of always off. Something was missing. And that missing was always my dad's stories of what community looked like back when he farmed and how he farmed, and how the community was, it was a community of farmers that worked together, almost like the threshing routes. Farmers would get together and help each other and harvest the crops together. So it was a different era. And the era that I started farming in was very, I would say, cutthroat. And you have to have every bit of acreage you possibly can have to make anything work. And so it was just this complete opposite way to farm. Because of my sister constantly talking about organic farming and a different way to farm, I started to look into it more and got excited about it and started down the path. Started with just crops, and what drew me into it after looking into it was the amount of fellow organic farmers that were excited to help. And so there was that little bit of sense of community there that I didn't see in the other conventional world.
What's one thing, or maybe one or two things that maybe jump to your mind about the transition from traditional conventional farming into organic? What made that transition difficult?
The transition from conventional to organic, I'd say number one difficulty is finding funding. No one wants to fund an organic farm. So I'd say that was the biggest hurdle. Number two is learning a new way of farming. So I would say those are the two biggest hurdles to get into.
The funding part of it, are you talking banks?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They aren't interested. And it's a hard go too. You have to go 3 years or 2.5 years of farming with conventional crop prices with organic style of farming. And so it's a difficulty, it's a burden to get through that. And so, yeah, I would say those are the two biggest hurdles that I faced.
From an organic standpoint, what helped you look past or move past or work past those two obstacles?
Pure will and determination. Well, first off, you have to have a conviction to have that will and determination. And so I felt convicted that this was the farming that I was led to do. And so with that conviction, you can't let anything be an obstacle, whether it's funding, whether it's weather, whether it's learning, whether it's failure. You just have to take what came to you, learn from it, and move forward.
Sure. So going from, now you've been an organic farm for a period of time, you started adopting the regenerative word. What's in your words, how would you articulate the difference between organic and regenerative? Are they kind of the same? What makes them different?
I would say there's some similarities, each rob from each other.
Sure.
Organic, the true original purpose of organic is regenerative, so that goes hand in hand. I would say organic has become as a little bit of a red tape bureaucracy. And so the true vision and meaning behind the word organic, or what they wanted to create with that um, certification, kind of has been lost. And so regenerative is the word that has popped up to replace that, which we've lost to bureaucracy. So basically, regenerative is restoring land. You're going into a farm, and you're taking the land and you're trying to bring it to a level that's better than what you started with. That is the basic principle of regenerative is to restore land to above what you started with, regenerate it.
So what's maybe one way that you've in these last few years have adopted those regenerative practices and regenerated something in your acreage or in your farm, in your practices? What's one thing?
Just one thing.
You can name a few.
Yeah, I'll name. I
I'm
will
giving
name
you
a
a
few.
low bar here.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Well, bringing in animals is, to me, the key part of regenerating soil. Cover crops is a good way. There's planting practices and tillage practices that are maybe better than others, but ultimately, I think to truly have a regenerative soil, you need to bring in animals. You need to bring in diversification of plant species. So I personally believe even it isn't just row crops, or it isn't small grains, or it isn't like having a huge rotation. It's even, well, maybe let's look at pasture. Let's look at agroforestry, trees. It's broadening our vision of what agriculture looks like. Ultimately, what are we trying to produce? We're not trying to produce commodities. We're trying to produce food. So creating the most healthy, nutritious, dense food possible, which, I mean, is fruit, vegetables, grain, animals, eggs, beef, pork. So all of this, and each animal, each plant, each has its own little, how do I say, niche in helping the whole ecosystem work better together. So the more you can incorporate of different styles, species, plants, animals, the better that ecosystem is, and the more it'll regenerate.
When you think about going from regenerative farming to circular farming, what are some of the nuances, differences between regenerative and circular?
Yeah.
Is there a difference, or
I personally believe there is, but I kind of have my own definition. So
Sure.
Like regenerative and organic have similarities, so does regenerative and circular. I believe that it goes like there's a scale, I guess you could say, organic, regenerative, and then circular on top. So circular to me is a complete self-sufficient farm, where everything that farm needs to produce the crop is grown on the farm. So like for fertilizer, the animals, the manure source, that starts that nutrition base for the soil to raise the crop, to then feed us or the animals, and then it recycles back. And so the circular mindset is to eliminate inputs, and so that we don't, eventually our goal on this farm is to not buy anything and to be completely self-sufficient.
What would you say was the impetus to even going circular? What was the thing that kind of threw you over the edge with circular, going from regenerative now to really trying to keep everything in-house?
It's so this, my whole agriculture journey has been a leading, I would say.
Sure.
I would actually, it's a spiritual leading.
Give us one loop that you've closed, and then one loop that you want to close in the future. Give us an example.
Yeah, so I would say One loop that we're really close. I'll say start this really close to closing. Pretty this year we did close, but depending on the year, we might need a little bit more. But our fertilizer, I don't. As of this year, I didn't need any. I didn't need to buy any added fertilizer to apply to the farm. So I had enough animals and manure to produce my own fertilizer, compost, and everything else. So
what's one circular practice that you're aiming to kind of overcome complete?
I would say a big one, a big goal would be energy. So our vision is not just the land or soil. Our vision is the whole farm. So being energy independent off grid would be a big goal that we want to close in the future.
Some of the language that you've used in terms of circular has been circular farming, but then also circular community. Mm-hmm. Explain what you mean by circular community.
It's actually one that I'm still like rolling around in my head. I don't have a complete definition of what a circular community really looks like, because I think our society is so far removed from what it used to be that in today's age it's hard to really put a definition on it. But I would say, in simple terms, it's the community knowing where their food comes from, knowing their farmer, having a relationship with their food, and desiring more than just agriculture, but this community of helping each other is part of it. Worship is part of it. Music is part of it. Festivals and so it's kind of hard to. I'm still framing that in my head, what really a circular community looks like. But there is a give and take. So like we give to the community of food, the community has to give their support back to us as a farm. Sure. And so how they do that, we're working, how they can help.
You talked a little bit earlier about your dad's stories about community and farmers working together. Mm-hmm. How is that a circular model in some way to look at least as a jumping off point, would you say?
The threshing route is just a prime example of they shared a piece of equipment, threshing machine. And so it was a community owned piece of equipment that they had to literally go in a circular route to all the farms and harvest all the crops.
When I think about that, you've created at least some collaborative connection with a handful of farmers. Mm-hmm. What has been discussed in those meetings, in those relationships in terms of a circular idea, and what do you hope that grows into?
So the discussions we've had with our farmers are like shared equipment. That's one thing, like on that thresherman route, because there's specialty equipment that not all of us need to own, and so we can share that with other farmers and help out with our cost side of things. So that's one. The other thing is marketing. A lot of farmers have trouble or no desire to market their product. They just want to farm, which I totally understand. Marketing is it's an art in its own, and it's a challenge. So part of our circular, I would say, hub and spoke community that we're building is to build that marketing side so that we can connect local farmers to local consumers right next door. We're not trying to ship something to Texas even, or we're really just focusing in on local communities providing food to their consumer.
How historically has Fergus Falls or the small town lived circularly, and how do you see us getting back to that?
I'd say 70 years ago even. Fergus Falls was actually, and surrounding communities, was almost a completely self-sufficient food hub. So we had our own creamery, we had our own grain mill, had our own butcheries, and so we, as the farmers in the community, they would gather their harvest, bring it into the hub of Fergus, the town, and it would get processed, and then it would be sold to the community. And then that community, that's how they supported the farmers, and that's how that circular action worked back then. As far as going on into the future, I think we take that as a blueprint. We have technology now that can help us do it better, and get some prices down, maybe even after working through some stuff. But um, yeah, I would say rebuilding that infrastructure so that local farmers can provide a product to their consumer again. So rebuilding, adding more creameries, adding more butcheries, adding more flour mills, so that and to start providing niche products that people are after, and eventually it can grow into more main products across the board.
Sure.
So.
You've talked a little bit about this idea of the hub and spoke community. You brought it up here. Explain what you see as the hub. What is the hub?
The hub is the farm, and the spokes off the hub are consumers, as the infrastructure. It's everything to connect to another farm, which is on the wheel. So it's there's a central farm that supports other littler farms, and then the spoke, you could say, is consumers and infrastructure and and marketing, to connect those two together, and then each farm on the wheel can be its own hub.
Sure.
And so yep, and so it keeps growing almost like a web. And so we aren't the economy of scale. We're that's a great thing to lower costs. And so through this hub and spoke, we can still have that through the web, but it's decentralized and not through one or two organizations that control all of the food. It's every farm and community controls their own food.
Right.
And so that is the goal and the purpose of this, is that a community can control its own destiny instead of being controlled by the whims of a giant corporation 1,000 miles away that decides what they're going to charge you for their food and what they're going to put into it. Right. This would allow farmers to provide locally to their consumer group.
Great. So the hub is the farm, and each farm is a hub. So you have multiple hubs all over the place. Mm-hmm. Those hubs are bigger or smaller depending on the size of the farm and what they're trying to accomplish. Like, mm-hmm, we talked about, they might not want to market. So the ability for other farms to help them market their products is part of, yep, this spoke connecting each farm. What would your message be to people who, you've talked about this a handful of times, how people have come to you and said, I am really interested in getting into farming. What would be your encouragement and maybe a word of advice for someone who might be interested in buying their own parcel of land and getting into farming, whether it's animals or whether it's small crops or, mm-hmm, big garden or something like that?
Yeah. Don't do it alone. Find support, find other farmers that have done it, that you can glean off of and learn from. That's number one. It's huge. You have to find someone that has done this or started to do it or can give you some direction, because just going and doing it on your own, it's a challenge, big challenge. So finding that support, I would say, is the number one thing to start and to learn and how to do it.
Would you say that there's a need for small farmers like that?
Huge. Yeah, I think it's unlimited. I think the market is out there. Like, people in the city, especially in the big cities, are just craving real food, grown by real farmers right down the road. But it doesn't exist at the scale that it needs to exist, that the market is demanding. And so I think there's a huge opportunity. Funding is hard, and that's why, again, with this hub and spoke model, as people invest into this, the funding is also going to go to help support and build small farms that can't go get funding, sure, and can't, and then we can teach and learn and grow together. So yeah, your membership, if you want to support something like this, It doesn't just go to give you discounts. It goes to build a different model of food, and a communal one across the state of Minnesota. Yep.
So when you think about this hub and spoke community, um, what would you say? What would you say is the core mission behind the hub and spoke community?
I would say it's actually to build community.
Okay.
So I think community, agriculture, the agriculture model 100 years ago built community. Family was a huge part of that. So you had the family and you had the agriculture model, and that built the community, with church involved and with all these other organizations that would start up because of families working together as a community under an agriculture model system. And we've kind of lost that, and we went to an industrial way where we have to centralize everything, where everything has to be cheaper is better, which is not always cheaper is better. So, you know, we went away from the agrarian style and we went to more of an industrial style. And so the hub and spoke is more going back to an agrarian community-based style of civilization. And I would say not going back, but going forward.
So we've launched this Acres of Asher membership. There are percentage discounts that members get when they buy products through our online account, and we're working to get some percentage discounts when people go into local stores, partnering stores, which is great. Mm-hmm. What do people get beyond those discounts? What do you think is important about the membership beyond those discounts specifically?
Yeah, well, your membership, your fee that you pay, that funding is going towards building that hub and spoke. So without people joining up as members, this can't happen. So what's different about the hub and spoke model and previous models of like co-ops and other
CSA maybe?
Yep, CSAs. They had it's a great idea, great intentions. But a lot of them, and some have been successful, but the main ones that have been successful have been on this very centralized, larger scale. And so the difference between those models and this model is they got farmers together and joined up, which is a hard thing to do, is to get farmers under one united voice. And then the marketing and all the reasons for creating this co-op or collaboration of farmers was then created and built. And then they went after the market. To be successful at doing that, they had to be huge to go after the market because of how much it costs to do this. And so what this hub and spoke model is different is that we are going after the market first, or the consumer side of things first. And because we feel at this time in history, it's important for the consumer to take ownership in their part of how we build a community. The farmers can't build a community for you. Your government is not going to build a community for you.
Absolutely not.
The only way that we can build a community again and feel like we are connected again is for everyone to partake in it and to build. And so this is an opportunity. When you sign up and you become a member, you're giving something. You are sacrificing something to build a greater future for our kids or grandchildren and so on, and to build that community. And so that's why we're doing it this way, so that it's not just a large investor or someone coming in to build this thing. It's okay, everyone, let's build this thing together.
Right.
And so when we build it together, it becomes more powerful and communal.
So with the membership program, we also released a gift membership. What would you encourage people to do with that?
I think it's a unique opportunity if there's someone in your life that you have no idea what to give them for Christmas, which everyone has that. this is a perfect opportunity to give them something, and it's a gift that keeps on giving, because you're literally building something that hasn't been built. Right. So yeah, give them a gift card that is a membership to our hub and spoke community,
and it gives them access to fantastic, healthy, amazing food.
Yep.
So
there's we're adding more and more farms to this, and we're continually, like we said, we're working with grocery stores in the cities that will be the discount will work for in there too. So
what's one farming tool that you cannot live without?
Farming tool that I can't live without. This is going to sound weird, but my calculator on my phone. So if I like to run numbers in my head and figure it out.
Always doing the math.
Yeah. If I had one tool, I don't know. Yeah.
Otherwise,
I can use my hands.
What's one farming practice that you wish you would have done way sooner?
Animals. Definitely. I wish I would have started with the animal thing right away. Started to incorporate animals and getting my own fertilizer right away. So, yep.
All right. Last question. The soil smells like what when the farm is healthy?
The soil smells like, well, it's an earthy, I don't know how to describe it. It's earthy, it's sweet, it's healthy. Yeah, that's fun.
All right, well, Joel,
it's fun smelling.
Joel, this was awesome. Every time we sit down and talk with you about your farm, your history, your experience, kind of how you envision farming, the way it has been, the way it could be, it's inspiring. And I'm really excited to see where you take this vision and to see how it grows and the people that join you along the way. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for asking me questions.
Yeah, thanks, boss.
Yeah.